Hey folks, welcome to Typology, the show on which we explore the mystery of the human personality and the great human adventure all through the lens of the Enneagram. My name is Anthony Skinner, your co-host and producer, and we're going straight to the man right now. Normally, I have a little bit more of an intro, but we are passing it off to the man of the hour as we speak, because you're here with me now, Ian. What's going on?
Man, I'm living the dream here in Boulder, Colorado for the summer.
Colorado,
where it's 55 in the morning and 80 in the afternoon, blue skies, and zero humidity.
How's the dispensaries?
Yes, there are a lot of weed dispensaries here in Colorado. Gratefully, I am not partaking of their wares, but
Nice.
it's a different place than Nashville, but I sure love it. And the dogs
It feels like a
love it.
Colorado day here, I'll tell you that. The last 2 days,
Really?
you would not think it is June 15 and 16. It's like in the 70s. I was down by the river the other day, and it's like, it feels like almost like fall yesterday. So grateful for that, because that is not the norm here in
Oh,
Nashville.
and next week I go to Scotland for 3 weeks.
I'm so jealous. 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Dang. What are you going to be doing? Give us a little taste.
We're going to be spending a week. Annie and I rent a car and go in the Highlands and, to St. Andrews and to the Isle of Skye and, puttering around. And then we meet up with a group, some of whom, a good number of whom are friends of ours. And we're going to spend 10 days walking in the footsteps of St. Cuthbert.
Ooh.
About 10, 15 miles a day of walking and praying and thinking and journaling.
That is
and
cool. Do you
doing the thing.
at the end of the day, or do you land at an inn, or you picked up, or what? What is that?
Yeah.
Like?
Yeah. So at the end of every day, you kind of arrive at some cool inn,
Yeah,
have
that's
dinner
cool.
together,
Oh,
put
that's so
put
fun.
Voltaren out, on your feet,
Yeah.
to relieve the pain and, get ready for the next day. So I'm
Well, we all
stoked.
know who's going to be getting to that end first.
My wife.
Yes.
Yep.
Because she outpaces everyone by like 5 steps.
Dude, okay, here in Colorado. So
I mean,
we're
5
at
steps to 1 is what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we're up here at 6,200 feet, right?
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And it takes you weeks to acclimate.
Mhm.
So I'm going up this hill, like, remember Tim Conway's thing, Mr. Huygens, where he's just shuffling?
Yeah.
Like I'm just shuffling and wheezing my way
Yeah.
up the mountain. And she is 100 yards ahead of me, 200.
That's
And then she
crazy.
just stops and waits.
Yeah.
And then she, goes, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And then she goes again, goes 100 yards in front of me. I don't know, man.
She is serious.
Hmm.
Well, listen, today we're kicking off something we wanted to do for a long time. It's a series we're calling Enneagram Essentials, 5 episodes, the essentials of the Enneagram. And we're going over a few things maybe you might not have even known, but it's back to the basics.
Yeah. So the idea is pretty simple, right? The Enneagram has, kind of a 101 level and a 201 level,
Mhm.
right? And, most of our listeners are at the very least 101s, right? But,
Right.
we started this show 350 shows ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was the last time we did Enneagram Essentials.
Right. So it's been
Was 350 shows ago.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to revisit some essentials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the 201 stuff that some people will pick up. Or you might hear something about one of the kind of basic essentials that you've never heard before, which would be really helpful.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing both.
And in addition to that, we have listener mailbag, which we've done before, and our listeners have loved. And we're going to be running through some of those questions today that we've collected over the past several months. And some of you might be brand new to the Enneagram, and some of you have been studying it for years. So we've tried to honor that full range with the questions that we've selected today.
Yeah. And so today we're going to do a lot of 101 stuff based on the mailbag stuff.
Yeah.
And then 2 through 5 episodes, we're going to be covering sort of deeper level stuff, basic fears and desires, instincts, subtypes, virtues, right? These are 4 concepts that most people don't fully understand. and that, in my experience, are often the most transformative.
Mm-hmm. So let's start with the questions. And as always, if today's conversation sparks something for you, our listeners, make sure you go ahead and send some more questions our way, and we'll give you that address at the end of the show. So first question is perfect for kicking the series off, called Enneagram Essentials. This comes from Natalie in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Natalie writes, I keep hearing about the Enneagram everywhere, from my coworker, my pastor, and now my therapist. Can someone please just explain what it actually is in plain English? Is it just another personality test?
Wow, that's a good question. And it's just funny, we don't talk about it much. We just assume everybody knows, right? The simplest way, and here's what's interesting, is how I answer it today may be a little different than I would have answered it 350 shows ago.
Yeah.
The Enneagram is a personality typology or a system framework, and it teaches there are 9 fundamental personality styles in the world. And each of them has a habitual or predictable pattern of acting, thinking, and feeling, of interacting with the world, a way of processing life as it comes at them. And the goal of it really is to not eliminate necessarily the more challenging dimensions of your personality type, but to bring them to awareness so that from moment to moment, you can make new choices about the ways that you act, think, and feel on a regular basis, right? To strip away some of the neurotic layering around your essential self, that you might live more from a place of authenticity and reality versus trapped inside the matrix of your personality style. And each of those types, right, has an unconscious motivation. It powerfully influences how that type acts, thinks, and feels from moment to moment. And so, in short, it's a tool for not just understanding your personality, but working with it, transforming yourself. Or if you're a person of faith, you might say, under the sway of grace, experiencing transformation. And there's another way of thinking about the Enneagram. And we spoke about this with a select group the other day, our Typology Institute members. And that is to think of it as 9 habits of attention. 9 ways that people go through life paying attention to certain things. Each type has a kind of attention trap.
Right.
A place where their attention just migrates so often that, if they become riveted on. So, for example, Enneagram 3, their attention is always drawn to goals, productivity, efficiency, getting things done, moving things along, achievement, success. Right. So that's something where their attention just locks on. Well, I could go through all the types and do that, but it's to say that you want to make sure that you pay attention to what you pay attention to.
Right.
Because if you don't, you want to open up the aperture of attention so you can notice more of what's happening around you in the present moment versus just being like spotlighted on one thing all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about the Enneagram is it does what you just said, deals with motivations, with intention, with your focus of attention, as opposed to just the behavioral aspects of what you are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a trait test.
Right, yeah.
Right, so I probably 350 shows ago would have said that, the Enneagram is a typology that helps people to understand what makes them and others tick. And that actually is kind of true. Right. But it doesn't just describe what people do, it describes why they do it.
Yeah. Which is, to me, it's the great separator between this tool and a lot of the others.
Yeah. So it's not just, to answer Natalie's question a little bit more drilled down, it's not just another personality test. It's better than that.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, that is a great answer for Natalie. Thank you, Natalie, for your question. So let's go on to question 2 here. Next question is from Sleepless in Seattle. No, it's actually Marcus in Seattle. I've taken 3 different Enneagram tests online and gotten 3 different results. How am I supposed to know what my actual type is?
I hear this question a lot. Every time I do a workshop, I hear this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to
There is an answer.
There is an answer.
Yeah.
So there's 3 great ways to really learn the Enneagram. The first is read about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I love The Road Back to You, and I'm not patting myself on the back for any other reason except it is a very good primer, a good introduction to the Enneagram. Start there. Read up on all 9 types. I don't want people to be just a student of their type. I want them to be a student of all 9 types.
Yeah.
And, figure out which of those 9 types, the unconscious motivation of each of those 9 types, which one most aligns with you.
Yeah.
And as you read through, which one makes you kind of grimace a little bit? You know what I mean? Like kind of recoil. Chances are that might be your type, because the Enneagram, unlike a lot of other personality typologies, reveals what's best about you and what's worst about you.
Yeah.
What you're like when you're healthy and what you're like when you're unhealthy. And when you read about the unhealth side, you're going to be like, oh, I feel ashamed. I feel like really outed. And it, anyway, so that's one thing, reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
Secondly, go to a workshop with a teacher that is, qualified to teach, right?
Yeah.
A day-long workshop goes a long way, right? The third way is with an assessment. Now, here's the honest truth about online assessments. They can be a useful starting point. They are a data point. They are not the determinative, like that's the danger. People go in and they think it's like a blood test for, glucose, right? It's just actually going to give you the facts. And that's not always true. Self-report assessments have margins of error. And so you have to pick the right one. Ours is a great test on our website, right? Well, because we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars making sure it was well constructed and has a high degree of reliability and validity.
Right.
So, I would recommend that. But even then, you take that test and you bring it up against as a data point with what you've read or what you've learned at a workshop. Yeah. And all of these are kind of like little steps along the way to having a confirmation of type. Now, ultimately, the only authority who can give you your Enneagram type is you. It's not a test. It's not a book. It's not a workshop. You collect the data, and you, based on your experience of you, get to determine what your type is. But beware of any of these Enneagram quizzes or Enneagram,
especially the free ones.
Oh gosh, run. Because none of them are free. They want your email, and they've concocted some horrible test that is inaccurate, right? Like ours, for example, gives wings, subtypes, and dominant type, right?
It's a big part of the Enneagram. So you could know your type and you could still look like another type and be really confused. But the more you know subtypes and the more you drill down, the more accurate your data points are going to be. Yeah,
because a test has to get at your motivation, which ours does, right? Like the Enneagram is not primarily typed by traits or behavior, it's by motivation. So 2 people can do the exact same thing for completely different reasons.
Exactly, yeah.
And they'll be different Enneagram types.
Yeah, right.
So if a test is asking you, do you tend to be organized? Well, that is a bad question, right?
Yeah.
A 1 might say yes because they want things to be right. A 3 might say yes because they want to be seen as competent. And a 6 might say yes because, structure makes them feel safe, right? So same behavior, 3 different types, 3 different motivations.
Right. Yep. That's good. Thank you, Marcus. All right. This one comes up constantly for us. This is Emma from Nashville, and she asks, I typed as a 4 in my 20s, but now in my 40s, I feel much more like a 9. Can your Enneagram type change? Okay.
Let me tell you something weird. I do not want to be held to the fire on this, but this is a provisional thing. I'm a 4, as you are, and I find that the older I get and the more work I do, the more I feel like a healthy 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes wonder to myself, is that true? I would love to know from people if that's true for them. Like,
interesting.
I just seem to become more healthy 9-ish.
Yeah.
Where I'm surrendered. I accept life on life's terms.
Yeah.
This also may be recovery work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be that. I mean, which is part of my evolution as a 4. So I'm not, I'm not surprised when people ask me, can your type change? Because according to traditional teaching, the answer is no. Your type doesn't change. However, what changes in many ways is your relationship to your type.
Mm-hmm.
So as you grow and you do this inner work, you become healthier. You become more responsive versus reactive. And the visible features of your type and your inner experience of them can just soften significantly to the point where people sometimes
Which should
feel
be the
like
case, right? I mean,
totally. But it makes people think their type has shifted.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it really hasn't. It's just evolved and matured.
And I love too that you've said this for a long time. I mean, we represent all 9 types, but we have one that is more predominant for us. So
Yes.
I think the older you get and the more you grow, you're going to connect with all those types, in a way that you didn't when you were younger. So that's probably could create some confusion for people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, precisely, right? A healthy 4 doesn't stop being a 4, right? They just stop being controlled by the 4's unskillful patterns.
Yes.
And they still have depth. They still feel things profoundly. They still have that longing for meaning and purpose and transcendence, but they're not a prisoner of it anymore. Yeah. And that kind of person functioning from their best self, right, might actually present very differently than they did at 22.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about, for example, we have a friend in I won't say their name, but in our Typology Institute membership, who is a 4. And over the last couple of years, you and I have just witnessed a profound shift.
Absolutely. Big time.
In their whole person.
Mm-hmm. That was beautiful.
Yes. So anyway, if the short answer is no, your type doesn't change, but you evolve and mature and your relationship with your type changes.
For example, something I might have worn like a feather boa 20 years ago, I don't wear anymore.
Yeah. That's because you gave it to me and I wear
it. Okay. Now we're going to get a little more into the weeds here. So this is a neighbor of yours, Daniel in Denver. Ooh. I've been studying the Enneagram for about 2 years and I keep getting confused by wings and subtypes. Are these actually important, or is it just extra complexity for the sake of complexity?
I love the second half of that question because a lot of times, whether it's around internal family systems frameworks and that we've spoken about, or around the Enneagram, like what happens is something really kind of, I don't want to say simple, but simple in the highest sense of the word, gets out in the public, and then people start adding crap to it.
Right. Yeah.
And then it just becomes murky and weird. And, I mean, I think, people start complexifying it in a way that's unhelpful. Mm-hmm. Wings and subtypes are important. So let's talk about that. For those who don't know, your wing is the type adjacent to yours on the Enneagram diagram that flavors your expression of your core type. So a 2 wing 1 and a 2 wing 3 are both 2s. They have the same core fear, the same unconscious motivation, but they present very differently, right?
And 1 and 3 are your only options.
Yeah, they have to be one of the 2 numbers adjacent to yours.
Yeah.
So, by the way, in the case of a 9, just in case someone's confused, you could have a 1 wing or an 8 wing. You have to look at the diagram to figure that out.
Yeah.
So your wing is, like a seasoning. You pick up. So I'm a 4 with a 3 wing, although I think I'm getting closer and closer to a 4 and a 5 wing all the time. So I am a 4, but I have some of the characteristic features and challenges, strengths of a 3. That is kind of just flavoring my dominant type.
Right.
It's a lot different than a 4 with a 5 wing.
Right.
But it adds, when okay, so your dominant type gives you a kind of a, how do I say this? a low definition picture of your interior world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you know your wing, you get a higher definition,
Mm-hmm.
an even higher definition picture of your interior world, because a wing technically is a subtype.
Right.
Like, in other words, a 4 to the 3 wing is a subtype of 4, right?
Yeah.
But then you get to subtypes, and I would argue that subtypes are even more important than wings, or more useful for me anyway.
Yeah.
And every type has 3 subtypes based on the 3 instinctual drives. So you have self-preservation, you have social, and you have one-to-one, which is also called sexual, depending on the teacher. And these subtypes can be so pronounced that 2 people of the same type can actually look almost nothing alike. Like, I'm a self-pres 4. I do not look like a social 4 at all.
Right.
I don't look anything like a sexual 4 at all.
Yeah.
And that's particularly true with 4s and 6s. The 3 subtypes are so different that, they might as well be their own types. So now with the subtype, you have an even higher definition picture than you did of just when you had a wing, right?
Yeah.
So it's just adding layers of distinction.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Let's go to number 5, question 5. This one comes from Sarah in Atlanta, and I have a feeling a lot of people are going to relate to this one. My husband and I are complete opposites on the Enneagram. I'm a type 2 and he's a type 5. We love each other, but we struggle so much around emotional needs and alone time. Is this pairing just hard, or are we doing something wrong?
Well, here's the deal. And you've heard, let me just get this out of the way because someone's thinking it. No 2 types on the Enneagram have an easy time of it.
Right.
Relationships are just fundamentally hard. And the sooner you accept it, the happier you're going to be, because when trouble comes, you'll just be like, yeah, this is just part of the deal.
Yeah.
So nothing is wrong with Sarah and her husband. But you have, these are 2, here's where the challenge is in this combination. A 2 is the most interpersonal number on the Enneagram, and they long for love and connection. As Beatrice would say, they are the befrienders, and they are motivated by a need to be liked and to be needed, right? And so their orientation to the world is profoundly relational, and they often express that desire through proximity, through attentiveness, emotional connection, and service, right? A 5's longing is for knowledge and competence, to keep energy reserves, right? To not be depleted by life, and to guard their inner world, their time, their resources. They don't let many people in, and when they do, they still need a lot of solitude to feel okay. Well, do you see how this could be a problem for 2s and 5s?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So the 5 may be feeling that the 2 is demanding too much of them emotionally, especially like immediately. Like, I need immediate connection.
Yeah.
And the 2 is reading that as rejection and abandonment. And the 5 is reading the 2's behavior as overwhelming.
Right.
Right. So you have two, by the way, in psychology, this is James Hollis. You have 2 states that people want to avoid. One is abandonment, and the other one is overwhelmment. That's what it's called. And so you get a 2 and a 5 in the room, man. Like, it's a recipe for triggering. Right?
I have a friend who he got married and went on his honeymoon, and day 2, he was so excited, going on the honeymoon. And they were on an island somewhere, and they were around the beach, and he was reading like his second book, and he was just having the best time of his life, And of course, at some point on day 2 or 3, she starts bawling, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "All you've been doing is reading."
Right.
He is an Enneagram 5, just having all this solace and just enjoying, his time alone with his new bride.
Yep. I think I've used this quote on the show many times, but it's worth saying it in this context. This is that Thomas Merton quote, where he says, "The beginning of love is the will to let those we love be perfectly themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The resolution not to twist them to fit our own image. If in loving them, we do not love what they are, but only their potential likeness to ourselves, then we do not love them. We only love the reflection of ourselves we find in them. So if the 5 needs that 2 to become a 5, or wants the 2 to become like a 5, and the 2 wants the 5 to become like a 2, you're going to have a tough run. Learning to negotiate difference, styles of expressing love and intimacy and connection is something that has to be talked through and navigated. And, 2s and 5s I see work all the time together. Yeah. So not a problem.
All right, let's go to numero 6. This one is close to my heart. Honestly, it comes from James in Nashville. James writes, I came to the Enneagram through my faith community, but I've noticed the Enneagram is also very popular in secular contexts. Is it fundamentally a spiritual tool, or can it be used without a spiritual framework?
Yeah, well, what a thoughtful question. And it's one I love to think and talk about. My honest answer is both. And this is one of the reasons I love the Enneagram. The Enneagram is really portable. It plays in a lot of theaters. So it works in a corporate leadership context, in a therapy context, in a marriage enrichment workshop, or in a monastery where they're focusing purely on spiritual formation. The framework itself doesn't require a theological commitment to be useful, right? That said, I think the Enneagram has a spiritual center of gravity. Its origins, right, we all know are complex and debated, but we believe it begins with the Christian desert mothers and fathers spiritually, right? Through contemplative traditions that are fundamentally asking a spiritual question, which is, what is standing between me and my highest self? What is the false self that I've constructed out of unmet needs or trauma? And how do I find the person underneath it?
And for people of faith, there's an additional layer to that question.
Yes, because for a person of faith, the true self isn't just a psychological construct. Like there was a guy named Winnicott who talked a lot about the false and true self, but from a whole different perspective. It's the self created and loved by God. So the Enneagram in a spiritual context becomes this tool for what what the Christian tradition and other traditions call metanoia in the Greek, right? Transformation of the mind and heart. And for me, it's a way of seeing where the ego has taken the wheel and driven me away from the life I was made for. So here's a pithy little statement. The Enneagram will not save you, but it can show you clearly why you need saving and then point you toward the work.
That is a line worth writing down. I hope you guys are paying attention. All right, let's go to number 7. Now we're getting into some territory where I know some of our deeper Enneagram students have been waiting. This one is from Rachel in Chicago. I understand the concept of integration and disintegration, but I feel like I move in the direction of stress so easily that integration is so rare for me. Is that normal? Is there something I should be doing differently?
Well, the fact that you're asking this question, Rachel, means you have more self-awareness than most people. And yes, what you're describing is kind of the norm for a lot of us, right? So for those who are newer, the Enneagram has what we call how do I say this? Lines of movement. Sometimes people call them lines of growth. Sometimes it's lines of integration and disintegration. And this has to do with where each type goes in stress and security. So when we're under pressure, we tend to take on the less healthy features of our stress type. So if you look at the Enneagram, I'm a 4, right? So when I'm doing great, I think it's moving in the direction of the arrow. It depends on what diagram you're looking at. When I'm doing great, I move along those lines inside the Enneagram, and I start to look like a healthy 1. I don't become a 1. I'm still a 4, but I start to begin to act, think, and feel more like a healthy 1. When I'm not doing great, I move against the arrow, and I go to the low side of 2, the unhealthy side of 2. I start to look like an unhealthy 2. Now, A lot could be going on here for Rachel. When we're under stress, the nervous system activates, and we often just regress to the most entrenched version of ourselves. So we bottom out of our type. We try to use all the resources of our type. We become unhealthy in our type. Then we move toward our stress number, right? It's not a character flaw, right? It's just a very human survival mechanism, right? So you need to have enough self-awareness in the moment to pause, to name what's happening, and then decide to respond differently. And that's really hard work. And it can, and I would also say, like, for a lot of people, there are triggering events that hijack their nervous systems. And it's really hard to break out of those without a little bit of therapy work. And we'll talk, I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when we talk about the Enneagram and trauma, maybe, but it's you're building muscles, right? So I'm always observing what's going on inside, what's going down right now. And it's not a fixation. I'm not like thinking about it all day long,
right?
But when things come up, I stop, I pause, I watch, I make new choices based on what I know of my Enneagram type. And it's been super helpful.
That's good. All right. So let's go to number 8. The next question here requires a little bit more care, and we want to honor that. It comes from someone who asked to remain anonymous. They write, I've been told my Enneagram type explains my patterns, but my therapist says my patterns are a result of complex trauma. And how do I know which lens is right? And is the Enneagram actually helpful for people who have experienced significant trauma?
Yeah, well, first, your therapist is not wrong. And the Enneagram isn't wrong. These are not competing frameworks. They're looking at a lot of overlapping terrain. So trauma and the Enneagram, I think, interact in really complicated ways. The Enneagram teaches that every type develops its core adaptive strategy, like in early childhood. And oftentimes, I think, it's in response to a real or perceived wound or unmet need. Now, for some people, that wound is relatively ordinary, right? I mean, the inevitable gap between what a child needed and what any human parent could provide is right. For others, that wound involves really genuine trauma, abuse, neglect, loss, chaos, being raised in a home where addiction is at the fore. In those cases, the Enneagram's type patterns could be significantly intensified and more entrenched. And there's just a lot more that comes into play when you start talking about trauma.
So trauma can amplify the Enneagram patterns?
Yes. That's one way to think about it. And it means that for someone with a significant trauma history, right, I would say the Enneagram alone isn't sufficient, right? You need the Enneagram plus. You need trauma-informed care, whether that's EMDR or somatic therapy or internal family systems or brain spotting or something else, right? Biofeedback. That might require a kind of multi-prong approach, because those patterns, trauma is stored in the body, not just the mind. And the Enneagram works primarily at the level of insight and cognition. So my strong recommendation is use the Enneagram as a companion to good therapy, not a replacement for it, right? At its best, it can give you and your therapist a really cool shared language and a map. But the Enneagram doesn't, oh boy, does it heal trauma? I'm going to say provisionally no. Healing trauma requires like a skilled clinician, a safe relationship, and a lot of courageous patient work.
That's good. Well, thank you for sending in that question. I know that took a lot of courage, and we really appreciate it. Those are the kinds of that kind of vulnerability we appreciate. So last question, and this one comes from Dr. Kim Park in Austin, who describes herself as a longtime listener and a licensed psychologist. We thank you, Dr. Kim Park. As a clinician, I appreciate the Enneagram's depth, but I've also seen it misused, people using it to excuse harmful behavior. We've seen that. Or to avoid deeper work. We've seen that too. What do you see as the real limitations and risk of the Enneagram?
Well, Dr. Park, I'd like to hug you through the microphone because this is a conversation we need to have repeatedly in the Enneagram world. Sure, the Enneagram can be misused. Anything can be misused. Full stop. And I think those of us who teach it have a responsibility to name that really clearly. Like when I'm doing corporate workshops, my last little module in the group is Enneagram ethics. Like,
Good.
How do I use this wisely? Because if you don't, it's going to cause more problems than it solves. Right? So obviously, you never want to hear somebody say, I can't help it. I do that because I'm an 8.
Right.
And you're just going to have to just deal with it. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, and any type can say that.
Yeah.
That is an avoidance of doing your own work. It's like just saying, this is how it is, right? Well, that's resistance. That's what we would call that. Like, it's like, I don't want to do the work. I'm lazy or I'm afraid of doing the work. So I'm just going to like make you deal with it.
And it's the opposite of what this tool is for.
It is the opposite of what this tool is for.
Yeah.
The other thing, obviously, is people weaponize it and use it as a cudgel and beat people over the head with it.
Yeah. Right.
Like you're such a 3, it's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Enneagram is not a permission slip to stay stuck.
Yeah.
Right. It's a description of where you are, but it's not a hall pass to stay there. In fact, quite the opposite. And finally, Anthony, I'd say, look, the Enneagram is not a clinical diagnostic instrument, right, or tool. It should never be used to replace good diagnosis or assessment or, evidence-based treatment, right? When it's used responsibly as a complement to good clinical work, as, I trust Dr. Park is clearly doing, it can be really powerful. When it's used irresponsibly, it can do harm. So we just have to be really careful with it.
Great. That's good. Thank you again, Dr. Park. And that closes our mailbag episode. What a way to open the series that we're jumping into. Thank you to everyone who sent questions in. And if yours didn't make it today, keep them coming.
Yeah. And I want to say, Anthony, that the fact that people are asking these questions means something, right? That the Enneagram is not just a casual interest for most people who find it. It's a doorway. And you wouldn't knock unless something in you was ready to walk through.
Oh, that's good. And next week, we're going to go through that door with episode 2. It is Basic Fears and Desires, the motivational core that explains why every type does what it does. And it's the material Ian says he loves teaching the most. And after today, I believe you. So let's see. Let's give some links up. Did you want to say something else?
No, give the links.
Yeah. So the Typology Institute assessment that we talked about earlier and the information about Ian's organizational speaking work are all in the show notes at typologypodcast.com. And if you have any questions for future mailbag episodes, please email Wendy at Ian Cron, that's CRON, IanCron.com. Ian, thanks for this.
Hey man, this was awesome. Love everybody. May you have love. May you have joy. May you have peace. May you have healing. May you have rest. Until next time.